it's just two of us this time.
That's
but
it.
yeah, got my boy Dr. C back with us. Again, this is a podcast for husbands, created by husbands, to help husbands win in marriage. And man, so you got different variations of husbands. You know, you got different personalities, you got different gift sets, right? And again, I think I truly have a strong value in, as the host, you know, Darrion Lewis, your host, right? As your host, it means a lot to me as we start thinking about husbands and healing.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Of course.
And it's not just a black thing. It's not a race thing at all. Actually,
Right.
You know, there are husbands from all demographics who just experience traumas, that experience things that have gotten in the way of them really being the best husband they can be, or walking in the fullness of who God created them to be as a husband. So
Exactly.
yeah, man, just what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that, you know, we as husbands, we want so much from our partners to be there for them, to support them, to give. And what is that? And we talked before about compassion fatigue. What is that taking away from you? And oftentimes we want to be healed by our partners. We may not say those words articulated in that fashion, but that's what it's looking like. Right. And we can. And we were just talking about this before. It's really about support, right? And what does that support look like? And that could be different on different days. And some days people could be really strong. Some days they may not be. But at the end of the day, it's really looking at yourself first, right? And what can I give? I use that quintessential airplane analogy of putting the mask on yourself first before you help others. Because quite literally, if you don't do that, you're going to run out of oxygen, right? You have to heal yourself. And what does that mean? And what does that take to do to you to be your most authentic and 100% for your partner?
Right. Yeah, I know therapy is something that, you know, oftentimes people look at as, okay, this is, you know, we're going to therapy, and look, we need therapy. Let's go to it. That's it. It's almost like this roadmap to end, but actually, or just this ideal of we just surviving, which may be true at some level, right?
For sure,
there may be some truth in that, and like just therapy can be a healthy practice to actually maintain the marriage. I've heard some people allude to that who are married that. Some people who have lasted a long time, actually, they're like, yeah, we have a family therapist. We have somebody that walks with our family, and
that's it.
Like when we're going through hard things that are just completely out of our control, right?
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, we believe in God, you know, and God is the source of our strength, and there are things therapeutically that we go to God's people for that are uniquely gifted to help us walk through these things and navigate through some of these things.
That's it. It's about tweaking it and making sure things are okay. I was talking to one of my clients, a couple, just this past week, and one of the things we were talking about is I use the analogy of a train, but like a very long train with caboose, has multiple cars that are there. Trains do a really good job of staying on the tracks for the most part. In recent history, not so much, but 90 to 95%. There's no accidents that are related to trains. And they can actually be doing very poorly. The wheels could be really squeaky. There could be nuts and bolts that are about to fall off. There could be graffiti all over the train, but it still gets its destination without any issue. And so what the goal is some people can unfortunately think that, because we got it there safely means that everything's okay. Yeah. That's not true. We got to tighten it up. We have to do maintenance similar to our vehicles, right? We got to do maintenance on these vehicles. Vehicles can last for a very long time before things fall off.
Sure.
But if you don't, there was and I'm just being transparent here, my favorite word. Yeah. Just brought my married partner, my wife's car into the shop, and there's $1,200 worth of maintenance that needs to be done. No issues with it, but it's that 60,000 mile check. Sure. If I were to say, no, I don't want to do that, we're going to have $12,000 worth of problems later, right? And I think the same thing goes with marriage and being a husband, right? What maintenance are we doing? Ooh. Like you said, there's that family that has a family therapist. That's what's happening behind the scenes. Right. That's what's really like the Wizard of Oz. What's happening behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes. That's a big thing because from a social, we live in the age of social media. We live in the age like everything's out. Like,
Yes.
like the generations before us were generations that like nothing leaves this house.
Exactly.
But it's like now everything is on display.
For
right?
sure.
And,
100%.
and we always want to display our best self that we don't. That in itself can be traumatic because it's like, I'm trying to put on so much and make it look like I got the best marriage ever.
That's it.
But in reality, at home, we're barely making it.
That's it. There's research that just came out in 2022 that with the advent of social media, specifically Facebook is what they're looking at, is that oftentimes, Darrion, people don't put on Facebook the negative things that are happening.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's the positive things. And so there's this facade, right, that, Darius is doing fine, Dr. C is doing fine, everything's great. However, when people are then looking at it, it's increased depression by like 85%.
Right.
And that because social media, because when I'm looking at things, let me see how I'm not having a good day today, right? And I go on social media, I go on Facebook to see they just got married, they just got a new dog. They're not telling you other things in between those areas, but when I'm looking at it, I'm actually more depressed because, man, my life is even worse than all these other individuals. Right? I'm not saying that people don't put negative things on social media, but it's very rare. If you look through someone's page, it's usually the happy moments.
It's not transparent.
It's not transparent.
It's not, it's a great display, but it's not complete. It's not the full story.
It's not accurate.
Right. And even you trying to do the work to understand the full story, you'll lose yourself in that.
That's exactly it.
And so many of us, even in our marriages, even as, and I would want to say that the women pay attention to it more than the men, but we pay attention to it too.
For sure.
Right? There are things that get our eye and make us be like, dang, man, I'm not doing enough, or man, I'm not. And it challenges you or it warrants against you being a good steward of what you have.
That's it.
Right? God teaches us, the Bible teaches us, if you he said, gosh, it's about having little and being a good steward of little, and I will make you rulers of many. Like you it's like this principle of having good stewardship of what you have.
That's it.
And God, and trusting God to give you more and in time, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And even in your marriage, maintaining the expectation or just maintaining what you have in the midst of what you have, right?
Exactly.
Like just really being a good steward of that.
That's
and
it.
not allowing that to weigh on your emotions, and allowing it not to even weigh on you socially.
Correct.
For some of us, right, I remember being in a situation with my wife where we saw this couple and we were invited to this particular event that they were hosting, but we felt this like weird deal of we needed to go buy something or we needed to level up a bit to be around them.
Keeping up with the Joneses,
or just, it was like kind of like, and that if you ask us, do we want to practice keeping up with the Joneses? No. Right. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't stand out based off of how flashy they were. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
It was weird. It was like this weird social dynamic that presented itself that you were just like, you wanted to belong in that room.
That's it. And I think that's what it really breaks down when you look at human nature and emotion. It's really that sense of belongingness. Right. There's research that supports if you are in isolation, right? We're talking about husbandhood, right? If you're in isolation, people are like, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm good. There was a podcast I was just listening to that stated that even there was a hermit that was in the woods in Maine for 40 years, isolated for 40 years by himself, right? Man. So he's completely fine. He would go down to the riverbank to watch people fish. Didn't interact with them. There's some sense of belongingness there. There's some sense of community that happens.
It's the same thing. So now we're going back even like into the developmental phase. My son enjoys YouTube TV. And it's weird. Like there are people on kids, like our kids, who watch other people play.
Yes.
And that's all they're doing.
That's it.
And they have millions and millions of views.
That's it.
Of just their kids going through the jungle gym and playing. And the kid just sitting there watching it.
That's it.
Or you'll have, for the gamers, people who were, they playing the video games. And
that's it. And I watch those streamers. I watch the streamers.
You're just
play.
watching the streamers play.
I'll be honest with you. That resonates real hard with me. Because for me, I actually thought that was quite strange, right? And then I'm like, I used to play Call of Duty. Yeah. And then I'm watching someone who's an expert in their field, right? I'm watching someone play the game.
Yeah.
And there's times where, not to go too far here, but he's watching someone, so I'm watching him watch someone play
else.
so that he could get better to figure out he or she. It's so interesting how that social media realm is in and how we've navigated that.
Yeah.
Making millions, though,
and people are intentionally creating content.
It's intentional.
For you to watch that.
Correct.
Right? And then, of course, they benefit from it. But it's just one of those things where, like, who are you? Who's your, as a couple, who are you watching? Right.
That's a good point.
Like, who are you watching?
Who's your streamer?
Who's your streamer?
Exactly.
Because it's not always in front of a camera.
That's it.
Sometimes it's just in, like, real life-to-life proximity. Like, of what you will be in a, have we watched married couples? Yeah.
For sure.
Like, there are married couples that we watch and we're like, dang.
Right.
Like, I want to be that when I get older. But and sometimes you don't really fully understand what it took to even just get there. But
correct.
What they've been through. But
I think it's the opposite, though, more for me, Darrion. I'll be honest with you. When seeing certain couples, and I mean this in a not a narcissistic or a cocky way, that's exactly what I don't want to be. Right. My partner, Caitlin, love her so much, my wife, and she said one of the most poignant comments I've ever heard. I was asking her what I should do about this scenario. What are her thoughts? She's a social worker. So I'm like, is there any type of, and she said, Darius, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what not to do. Yeah. Right? And so if someone tells you what not to do, it starts showing you, wow, there's so many times that we've been over people's houses or gone to different events and we saw different interactions. You know what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm like, whoa, if I ever talk to you like that or disrespect you like that, please let me know.
Let me know.
Maybe not in front of everybody, right? But hey, can we talk real fast? Or I don't ever want to do that. And so it actually strengthens our relationship on that drive home. And maybe not as far as Forney to places, right? but right, we talk about, and it actually strengthens. We can, okay, well, we do this, but there's some of those things that we do too. Darius, you know, you do some of those things as well. Not like that. And it helps tweak the relationship.
But I don't want to do that. And I think even just that mindset alone, because we're very, that's very much us too.
For sure.
I actually feel like we find more people that we don't want to be like than people we actually do.
That's it.
Like.
That's it.
And so I would say even that's very much us, but even that in itself, I think growing up for me, I also identified men that I didn't want to be like.
That's it.
I also identified peers that I was like, look, bro, I can't make that choice.
That's it.
Because at some level you're able to discern. Oh, God, thank you, Holy Spirit, for this. You're able to discern what the cost.
Whoa.
And what it would mean.
Whoa.
You know what I mean?
That's
up front. Like, and I think, you know, so Proverbs 4 talks about, and the first verse is really, I would say, really mind-blowing. Let me see if I can pull this up.
For sure.
It's just really mind-blowing because it's like one of those things where, you know, I mean, it talks about instruction and it just talks about, honestly, the process of discernment. And it says, listen, children, to a father's instruction and pay attention so that you may gain discernment. So there's this concept of listening, paying attention, and then as a result, you gain discernment.
That's it. That's it. I love that. I love that.
You know what I mean?
Like, I love that. But those are two things, right? It's like, listening and then paying attention. People think they're listening, but are you paying attention? Right.
Are you paying attention to what they're telling you?
Exactly.
I mean, we've been guilty even in relationships prior, like, you know, which could foster some of the trauma that we've experienced. Like, yo, as a husband, I've heard certain things before, and it's like I heard it again, and it just hit different this time.
That's it. Because it's what you said.
Now
it's
I'm
other
paying
words.
attention.
Because there's a difference between hearing and listening, and people don't realize that. If we're in a debate right now, I'm hearing what you're saying, but why? So that I can have my counterpart, right?
Yeah,
and then get right back at you there. I'm not listening to what you said. What I really like about that, though, is what you're saying is listening and then paying attention to what it is. I remember my parents really ingrained in me.
Oh my gosh, we try to listen and then,
Exactly. Go ahead. No, you got it.
Sometimes we listen without paying attention.
That's it.
And we just jump right to speaking or right to like, no, I heard you. No, you didn't hear me.
No, you didn't.
And how many times have our wives said that?
That's it. That's what happened. She said, and then my partner, Caitlin, would say, if you heard what I was saying, you wouldn't have asked me that question. You would have, Darius, can you repeat back what I said? So you've already answered that question. We've already been here before. I'm just trying to sometimes, not always, right? Trying to get a point across or trying to do this.
Yeah.
My parents taught me that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking.
And I think one of the most frustrating things is when you feel like your person or your spouse, your partner, they don't hear you.
That's it. Oh, yeah.
It's like the most like frustrating thing, but then it also triggers you into isolation. It makes you feel like you're alone.
That's it. That's it.
When, no, I'm here, I'm present. No, you're not, but you're not listening to me.
That's it. That can be worse. Someone being there and not being there.
Not being there.
Right?
They call it presenteeism.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Presenteeism is actually you there in the flesh, but you're not there.
That's it. They look at that a lot in work culture, right?
Work culture.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right? When you're going there and you're not really giving it your all, you're not being there, but you are present. And that could be worse. What the research states, Darrion, is that it's worse to be present. I'd rather have someone who's not there at all than someone who's there and not there.
Yeah, I had to learn that even as not having my biological father there. Like, I had friends who had fathers in the home, but they were there, but they were not there.
Wow.
And that felt like it did more damage than like me not having my biological father.
That's
there
what the research. I couldn't believe it, but I mean, you're living proof right there of just one end, one size right here. But that's exactly what they say. Why? The question is why, right? Well, it's because it's like this person is right here and they're tangible. They get touched. They should be able to help you. Which it goes. Keeps saying research here. It talks about the worst thing you can do to a kid. The worst thing you can do to a kid, and I would argue in a marriage as well, is neglect. If you neglect. What neglect is saying, right, and it could be whether it's physical neglect, food related to that, it's knowing, right, there's things that I need to provide here and produce. You're telling me that I need to be closer to the mic, and I'm purposely knowing that, and then I'm neglecting that. That's worse. That's one of the worst things you can do because we've talked about this, Darrion.
You made a decision. And a choice at this point.
Of vows.
And what's tough is when your wife sometimes, or you, but for the context of growing, when a person has to say the same thing because you didn't pay attention the first time.
That's it. You've neglected them.
I've had to check myself multiple times of just multitasking and trying to listen to my wife at the same time. Like I try to, like I'm doing something, I'm on my phone, and I'm hearing what she's saying, but I'm not really paying attention to it as much as I could be because something else has my attention as well.
That's it.
And so in order to really be effective, and this is why even healing is important for men, right?
For sure.
As we take that step further, that step forward, to address things therapeutically, we gotta even understand why we feel just like it's best to multitask while she's talking.
Right.
Because sometimes I've seen, like, for some people, wow, it's a person in my mind vividly. Like, I can be hosting a meeting.
Right.
And that person looks like they're just not even engaged.
Wow.
But their anxiety is so high that it's like I have to do something in order to calm my nerves, in order to be able to listen to you.
That's it. Right? And for me, the question, Darrion, is how much are you retaining then? Because physiologically speaking, you can't give 100% to both.
You can't.
There are people that are masters at multitasking, so don't get me wrong. Yeah. And you can get enough information. There's people that are in meetings and they're doing certain things like that. You're getting 95% of what's being said, but how much on that other task are you giving? Next thing, I've done that before, and I've sent emails that have typos, right? They have this and that.
Yeah, and I've missed things.
And I've missed things that are critical.
Like, oh, what? Really?
Exactly.
Like, oh, I didn't, what? Oh, you wasn't paying attention.
But if you were, I would have the answer. I would be able to appropriately answer if I was paying attention.
And paying attention can be the life or death of your marriage.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
How much you pay attention to and what you don't.
Exactly.
Because if you're not paying attention, right, you're not truly honoring that person.
No.
You're not taking a space of humility.
Correct.
Those words like humility, being humble, listening, these are things that's coming up in our conversation in this husbandhood
for sure
realm. And it's important because it's not only important for us because we're the men and we're called to lead and you want to model good leadership, right? But just more so, you want an effective relationship with your spouse.
That's it.
Again, some of the biggest some of the biggest struggles for men is dropping everything when your wife speaks.
That's it.
Like, But this is what we want in reverse.
Exactly.
Like, you don't
we get real upset.
me.
We get real
you
upset.
You don't respect me if she one of the things in communication that's tough for me is when people cut me off.
Oof.
Like if we're getting heated, especially.
Right.
And you're over talking me.
Yes.
To me, I just I check out like a little bit. But I've learned over time to be better at that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the marital sense, like to really be more patient with that.
That's it.
And it's still a struggle at times. For my wife, if my tone gets too loud, I've said this before, like it just takes her to a different place. And if you don't pay attention not only to what she's saying and when she say that, but how she says it, but then even like taking it a step further with the 3 whys.
Yes.
Why? Why is that the case?
Exactly. Why is that? Why did this bother this person? Oh, because when like over talking is a huge thing that I have been working on with my married partner, with my wife, Caitlin, and I realize when she's talking with others, I'm in her presence, and we are talking to other couples or her family, she frequently gets over talked. She has brilliant things to say, and she's not being given the space to provide that information. And so I'm realizing how much it's impacting her to the point where she's not even upset anymore. Do you understand how debilitating that is, Darrion, where if you hit like a child enough, they end up getting to a point where it doesn't bother them anymore. That's just what happens. She got beat down so much by not being able to say her, and then I'm doing it myself. That's what really got me. I need to be quiet, and she ends up articulating things better than I can articulate them, and usually shorter, right? Because I'm extremely verbose. So I think it's being really intentional about what your part and being there, right? Listening, paying attention, and really just being right there and seeing what bothers them and what doesn't bother them. And sometimes the things that don't bother them, it's because they've been beaten down so much, it's not even, we talk about it, but it's not even worth it. It's not even worth it to deal with because it happens everywhere.
And then avoidance creep in.
Of course.
I'm just going to even avoid because I already have this.
That's what it is.
I've heard this older gentleman say this, you teach me what to expect from you.
Ooh, you teach me what to expect from you. Oh, I like that.
So if you keep showing me, if I keep experiencing you in a way over and over, just like with the whoopings, right?
Yes.
Like, or just like you beat a child so much to the point where it doesn't even bother them.
Exactly.
Right? Because I've known and expected, so I'm now prepared for it.
Prepared, and you've numbed yourself.
And I've numbed myself to it, right?
Yeah.
If you're not willing to take instruction or listen to me, if you're not willing to like pay attention to what I'm telling you,
right?
If you're just shutting down, and shutting down is causing you not to be present with me.
That's it.
You're here, but you're not here.
That's it.
Then what happens when it's just us, no kids, no nothing?
That's it. Just husband and wife.
In our relationship, like what's the when it's just us?
That's it.
Like, do we have a relationship?
That's it.
That's it. What I mean? And so, all in all, I mean, I think we have to. It's important to really find, for any husband, and we're coming to an end here on this. This is an exclusive, by the way, but just like it's important for the husband to understand what are the barriers that are getting in the way of me being present.
That's it, Darrion.
What are the barriers that are getting in the way for me that are causing me not to be able to pay attention to my wife or really fully hear her? Like,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's literally it, Darrion. One of the things that I'm now living my life by, there was a professor out of Harvard University that stated he was talking about, as a manager, as a supervisor, as a CEO or president, what do you do? And he said it very succinctly. That's why I can remember it. He said, my goal as a boss, so fill in the blank with whatever you are, is to remove the barriers from my subordinates or my team members. And that's it. My goal is to remove barriers so they can do their job as best as possible. In a marriage, I would argue, and I'm not saying that there's a boss or anything like that, and I would say with both partners, right, involved, remove, you have to identify what the barriers are first.
And the barriers, a lot
might
of
be
time, it might be you. And it's not
pieces
you removing,
of you.
It's pieces of you that you are, you're marrying a person at a stage of healed or unhealed places.
That's it.
Like, and different, you guys could be at different stages, but
For
they
sure.
still, those unhealed spaces, even some of those healed spaces, even just, they can be, well, let's say this, they can, in an unhealthy way, project themselves onto the next person.
That's it.
And then from
Project.
there,
I love that.
it's like this projection.
That's it.
Because either I feel like I've been through that and I know better.
That's it.
And you don't know, so
That's
da
it.
da da da.
That's it.
Because you're healed from it already.
That's it.
Or you're unhealed, so you're trying to defend yourself even in the midst of this. So now I don't see you as my partner. I see you as like somebody who's threatening me or somebody that's trying to attack me.
Exactly.
And so overall, man, this is just scratching the surface. But as we bring this to a close, man, like, for the husband or the husbands who are listening to this, right? And even, man, I know women listen to this as well.
Sure, of course. I hope so.
But for the husband specifically, like for husbandhood's sake, what would be your final words that you would give just off the strength of what we're talking about?
For sure. I would transition and utilize what you were just saying in our conversation here to say, I'm not a big, I love anecdotes. I love a lot of stories. I'm not an analogies. So I'm not into horticulture as much, but I'm looking at some of these plants here around me and just really reminding me of, like you were just saying, right? You're not going to take out pieces of yourself. You're not taking yourself out of the equation. It's just pieces of yourself. I am not at all a gardener in any capacity, right? Green thumb or what have you. What I do know, though, is that when a plant grows, you would need to trim, right? You would need to clip the edges of it and prune the edges so that it can grow more full. You're not taking down the entire tree or the plant. You're pruning that so that the nice things, my partner, I love her long hair, and don't cut it. I have to cut off the dead ends for it to grow. And that's what I would say, Darrion, for the viewers that are listening, right? For husbands, particularly, is that look at yourself, and if there's ways that you can find a support system that's able to help you with that, if you can find someone else, or you can just do a deep dive in yourself, what are the areas that aren't so good that we can prune?
Oh, wow.
So that we can be a better version of ourselves for our partners and show up in a different space than we are right now. Because we can all, just like the train, we can all do a little bit better.
Right.
I go as a family therapist. They said, what do you know about family? You don't know what our family's like. You don't live in this zip code. You don't live in this area.
Yeah.
I think that you guys are going along, and you guys would be going along just fine if I wasn't here.
Right.
What? I think that we can make it move a little smoother, though. Yeah. I think that there's husbands that are listening right now that can make things run a little bit smoother. That's what I'd like to say.
Man, how do I come back from this? No, so I'll end it here. I'll say this. Because we're tracking, thank you, Holy Spirit. We're really tracking in the same vein. Like, what you take off is what you allow your wife to put on.
Whoa.
That's how I would end it.
Wow. I like that.
When you take off insecurity, right?
Yeah.
You allow your wife to put on security.
Oh, wow.
Because in between is vulnerability and humility.
Oh, my God. Can I use that in a therapy session next week?
Absolutely.
That's deep, though.
Because when you're willing, and it's connected to this ability to willingly, like, take off, to willingly lay down. Now, there's a time where you have to really, put your foot down and just say, like, look, hey, look, no, we can't do that.
Sure,
right?
Sure, of course.
That comes with any type of leadership.
Exactly,
as a
or
husband,
relationship.
When it's y'all too, right? And you're talking about these barriers and taking these barriers off.
Sure.
When you're taking off a barrier, or you're taking off something in hopes to remove a barrier.
Yes.
Right? You're allowing your wife, you're saying to her, hey, baby, I'm taking this off.
That's it.
And I trust, oh God, I trust that you trust what you see.
That's it.
Or that I trust that it's safe to take this off, because if the more naked I get in front of you, the more exposed I am in front of you.
That's it. Vulnerable.
It begins to take the barriers away of lack of trust, or it begins to take the barriers away of those things that I don't think you value. I actually give you the opportunity to see if you actually value it.
That's huge.
And it's a faith move, man.
That's it. One last piece of that is that I was listening to an excerpt from an individual talking about a crab, and when it sheds what happens when a crab begins to grow, it sheds its shell. It needs to find another shell. but it does so under the guise of a coral reef. It needs to go into a protective area. It's not doing it in the open sea because that's when it's most vulnerable.
Right.
So if you're shedding that, you're doing that in that vulnerable moment with someone who you trust and care. That's huge.
It's a shedding process.
It is.
And as you shed, man, like you allow yourself to grow.
That's it.
And that thing that once was a barrier, you're not only if that barrier tried to creep up again, you're no longer fighting it by yourself. You're fighting it with someone else because you've actually shed it enough to allow that person in. So now y'all can fight that battle together.
That's it.
Guys, this has been another episode of Husbandhood.
Yes, man, you got
a podcast
man.
created for husbands by husbands. My gosh, this has been another exclusive with my guy, Dr. C. All of us, we need somebody as husbands. And therapeutically, in love, this is where it is, all right?
That's it.
This has been Darrion Lewis, your host. See you next time.
'Cause on the husbandhood, yeah, we talk it out, that's so